Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ohio State Primetime Live. I'm your co-host Ryan Stano.
I'm Garrison Gaddy.
Garrison, I'll get a lot to get to tonight. First thing I want to start out with, though, is we had a former Buckeye get a new head coaching gig. Eddie George, one of the greatest Ohio State football players of all time, 95 Heisman Trophy winner, Tennessee Titans Ring of Honor honoree, has moved on from the state of Tennessee. He was actually the coach of Tennessee State and has now gotten a new gig as the head coach of Bowling Green State University. So he's following in the footsteps of Urban Meyer, who actually was the one who kind of helped him get the job. He actually recommended to the AD that Eddie is who they should look at. So thoughts on Eddie moving on up in the college football coaching world?
No, I'm very happy for him. Was he there at Tennessee for 2 years? Was he?
He was at Tennessee State for 4 years, actually, 2021 to 2024.
Wow, yeah, 4 years. Yeah. I'm excited for him. I think it's a big step for him. I'm someone who likes MAC football. I'm a Midwest guy, so maybe I'm a little biased towards that. But I do believe that if you go the Big Ten route, that's a good way to go. And it's not Bowling Green doesn't have some talent they can get to. They are in the state of Ohio. There's a litany of talent there they can go to, and also around surrounding states like Indiana, Pennsylvania, Kentucky. Yeah, I think, like I said, he's going to do a great job there. He's going to do a great job.
I think so too. When he was with Tennessee State, he did a good job. He won the OVC Coach of the Year just a year ago. So it's not like he has been doing poorly and this is just some name, this is a hire off a name. No, he's actually been coaching well.
Yeah.
And, Eddie has done exactly what he did as a player. He has thrown himself all in, full force. And, when he does something like that, he's not going to fail. So, like you mentioned, he is in a talented state. State of Ohio's got a lot of good talent. Obviously, Ohio State gets the best kids in the state of Ohio. But that doesn't mean that there aren't enough second, third tier kids who, can't succeed at a place like Bowling Green, especially with Eddie leading it. And, Bowling Green's had some talented teams in the past. Obviously, Urban, former coach there, 20 years ago at this point. But he knows what it takes to be successful there. And that's part of the reason why he, recommended Eddie for the job. He knows what Eddie's about, knows how hard he works. And I do think he will, have success there at Bowling Green. And I don't think this is going to be his last head coaching stop. I do see him eventually moving on up the ladder. I know you mentioned, if he wants to be the Big Ten route, we'll see what happens up in the next few years. But if he has success at Bowling Green, he is going to have success at other places. So doors are going to be open for him.
Also, if there is this he has on his belt, he's shown, even though it's at a lower level, he's shown the ability to build a program.
Yes.
4 years. I think I believe that's the time you should look at what a coach has built. I will hit 3 years and plus. And so now that he's done that, he's had success there. That's a great stepping stone to the rest of his career.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So it was good to see, former Buckeye get some good news for himself. And now we turn our attention to what the current Buckeyes are doing right now. And, spring ball is right around the corner. I mean, it's right around the corner. They're going to start next week. It's coming up. And the coaches actually talked to the media for the first time in quite a while on Friday.
Yeah.
And we got to hear for a lot of these guys for the first time, specifically Matt Patricia, who has not been with the program previously, and Tyler Bowen, who, again, was an outside hire as the offensive line coach. So I was interested to hear your thoughts on Patricia specifically, because I know you and I disagree on the hire and whether or not it's going to be something that's good. So what are your thoughts on, Patricia talking to the media?
I'm sold. I think he's going to be a really good hire for Ohio State. I think that Ryan Day made the right decision. A few things. His pass with Tim Walton, I think, is very important in terms of scheme, in terms of what we do as a team on defense. Of course, Matt Patricia, his expertise being in the front seven, defensive line, linebackers, and Coach Walt, his being in the secondary. So I think that's really good. Coach Walt also said to that, he said there are some, like, language-wise, there are some things that he says that Matt Patricia says. So he said, like, that helps out very well for them. Smart. Awesome move right there on that. Also, I would have right here how his defense utilizes the players depending on the defense they have to run or the offense they're playing. Of course, we got the news about oh my God, about good grief, linebacker that CJ Hicks. Thank you, I got myself.
Yeah, CJ Hicks.
CJ Hicks, so you can use like that, and I think there's players like him, Edric Houston, Caleb Downs, going to be very important to this defense and them being very multiple, them doing a lot of things, variations of different defenses and schemes. So he glazed Caleb Downs for a few seconds there in his interview. I mean, who wouldn't? But yeah, kind
of hard not to.
I don't know. I want to know, and also I talked to a friend of mine, and I asked him. I said, you see Matt Patricia, he's smiling more, doesn't have that big beard, lost some weight.
By whatever, Matt Patricia.
Hey, whatever means you gotta do it, buddy, you do it. You're smiling. And he's very excited about being in Columbus. I tagged doing something about him talking about recruiting because he got very giddy about recruiting. And I thought to myself, when you don't have a GM overlooking everything you're doing and picking the players that you want, or the owner picking the players that you're getting, you're able to go out there and see the talent. And plus, this isn't the NFL. You have your hands in almost any big time recruit, and you have your hands there as much as you want because you're Ohio State. I don't know, man. I think this is gonna work. I think it's gonna work.
I hope it works. I mean,
no,
I certainly
changed though.
No,
I mean,
nothing has changed, and nothing probably will change until I actually see them get on the field. I do like the fact that he mentioned that they're going to be multiple, which we kind of knew going in, that he was not married to one specific style of defense. But I would be interested to know what base he wants to run, what specific he is, defense he wants to stay in. But maybe that's the point. Maybe he's saying that they're not going to have a base defense. They're just going to play to whatever the matchup dictates for that week. He said all of the right things. He said he wanted to be instrumental in the growing process of 18 to 22-year-old men. He wanted to help them not just grow as football players, but as young men. And again, everything he said was right. And, they asked Ryan Day about how comfortable they were with some of the things in his past. We've talked about it. And he seemed perfectly comfortable. He seemed to have vetted everything that needed to be vetted, and he didn't really think it was too much of an issue, which I guess that part's good. But again, I don't think anything's going to change for me until we get, the season started. CJ Hicks moving to the defensive line. We talked about it. We've been talking about it all offseason. That's a move that they needed to make. He's been screaming that he wanted to be on the edge for a few months. So I'm interested to see what he's able to do with Larry. And, we'll talk about Larry here in a little bit. But, as a whole, I think Patricia, like I said, he said and did all the right things. Now, I'm going to see how involved he wants to actually be in recruiting. I'm still not thinking Knowles wasn't a huge part of the recruiting as far as making visits. So maybe it's kind of going to be along the same lines for Patricia. But we'll see when things get on the field. So we heard from all the coaches, and I want to hear your take on what Larry Johnson said about his future, because you and I have been speculating about that as well. And when asked about his future, Larry Johnson said, I'm going to coach until God tells me I can't, basically. So he sounds like he wants to keep coaching. And it sounds like, based off that quote, that he wants to coach more than just this year. So what are your thoughts on what LJ had to say?
Well, usually when they say, until God tells them, until they, kick the can, and life's over with, right? Well, sometimes the Lord has a lot of mysterious ways in working, and that might be through your boss kicking you out of there too. I'm surprised. I would hope this. Ryan Day usually does not wait long. If he needs to make a fire, he usually does it. He's been very, very. I think he's been very. It's very open, and I think we can all see it that Ryan Day has no problem with hiring and firing. He will do it to make sure that the team is, or the program is where it needs to be. Do I think he would do that with Larry Johnson? No.
I think we both agree that he probably needs to.
Yeah, I think Larry's a very strong-willed. He's a strong-willed old man.
Yeah,
and it's hard to. It's hard to take away his philosophy because it works and it has worked. Now it might not be the same as when you had the Bosa's and you had Chase Young. It's been a long time since you got a JTT and a Jack Sawyer in your classes, but you did get Edric Houston. You did you have shown over the years. You have shown depth there, and we've talked about this too. As much as us fans malign him, the kids love him. Their crews love him. And that's what they still come and play it for him. So I mean, it is what it is right now. It is what it is.
Kids love him. I don't think either one of us are surprised that he's staying for this year. I mean, based on the coaching carousel and the moves that were made, we were pretty positive he was going to be back for this season. I can't say I'm excited that he had that quote. And, it seems like the Ohio State fan base at large is split on him as well. It seems like there's a certain segment of the base that wants him to keep coaching for as long as he can. Mm-hmm. And some of us who want him to possibly, move on. And again, he's been pretty darn successful. He's won 2 national championships. And he has a lot of first-round picks that he's developed. But it does seem like his best days are behind him at this point. So, I'm perfectly fine with him coaching one more year. I'm a little surprised he didn't want to ride out on top, winning a national title under 2 different head coaches. That'd probably be the perfect time to hit the hay, especially when you're, the age that he is. But he clearly has a calling to coach, in his mind, and he wants to do it as long as he can. I think as long as he can will probably be this year. I do think unless they have like an unreal defensive line this year, that Day will probably look to, move on next season. I mean, that's probably for the best. And, we've talked about it. Mm-hmm. Larry has done a fantastic job in his Ohio State coaching career. I mean, take nothing away from the man. Like I said, he's produced multiple. I mean, you just named a whole list of guys who were 5-star recruits who he was able to land and develop in NFL players. So, all good things must come to an end. And I do think that end will probably come next year. If it doesn't, then we're going to have more concerned Ohio State fans. But again, we'll see what the defensive line looks like under Patricia. And I'm really curious to see what he does with CJ Hicks. With him as an edge guy.
CJ Hicks can be I like the winning piece on that defense.
What do you think his ceiling is as an edge guy?
Like All-American type of.
So you think you mean All-American talent?
Yeah, I asked this question on X the other day. Most people said no. And I asked, do you think Ohio State will have 3 guys over 8.5 sacks next year? And I do. I think there's a chance Ohio State has three guys that go 8.5, or at least 8, but more. And so I think that he's going to excel in that position. I think he's showed in small areas and glimpses that he can be. But he has the athletic build. I would liken him to like a smaller Abdul Carter. I think he can be that, just a smaller version of him. So, and I would imagine he's going.
That's a high bar.
No, I mean in terms of what he can be, Like I'm not saying he's saying he can hit it. It'd be like.
I mean,
And
don't
I'm
you
only
think
saying
he
because
would
of,
have seen flashes of that in the 3 years he's already been in the program?
yeah, like I think he can be that in terms of just. And I don't mean like the same level, but in terms of being a really athletic guy, maybe a little bit undersized. But and I would have to imagine by the season he's gonna be about 240 because he
He'll
can't
beef
be.
up.
Yeah, he's gonna have to be between 240 250. So I
So
think
what?
he
You
could
don't have to
be.
worry about players gaining weight in this program. That
No,
won't be
yeah,
a
well,
problem.
no, you really don't. But no, I think he's gonna excel there. I think he's gonna give the defense a different look. Um, and also in certain situations, he can still play linebacker. It's not like he's god awful. He's just not the best at it.
No,
So,
yeah, I don't think his ceiling is quite as high. I mean, I think he could be an all Big Ten performer. I mean, probably second team is probably where he could slot in if he does, pretty well.
mm,
We just haven't seen it from him. Like he's had 3 years to flash, and I was a huge CJ Hicks fan coming out of high school. I mean, his high
yeah.
school tape was ridiculous. I thought he was going to be a really good player, and he just hasn't quite panned out to that. Now, I do think the move to edge is going to work for him. Like, I think he's going to be better. Like, there's no doubt about that.
Mm,
I think he's much better used as an edge rusher. And Larry actually talked about making Hicks not just a situational runner, like he wants to develop him into a 3-down lineman. And I'm interested to see that process because when with him being up front, he struggled in space at the linebacker spot. So when you're up front, you're not tackling as much in space. So I'm interested to see how quickly they are to bulk him up so he can, make some tackles there in the run game as well as the passing game. So that's
mm.
something that will interest me. So got this comment. With the arrangement spring ball, do you think Day sticks with position OTAs? I think Day is changing a lot of things, specifically in the spring. He actually mentioned that basically a lot of the guys who are veterans aren't going to be doing a whole lot in the spring. He wants to prioritize rest for those guys. So Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Davison Igbinosun, those guys on defense, you're not going to see a whole lot of them. On offense, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of. I mean, you might see some of Jeremiah just because he's a freshman and he's younger than a lot of the guys that they had, but
you won't see him a lot. You won't see him a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. I mean, we kind of know what he is at this point too. So I mean,
Yeah.
Carnell Tate, another guy. There's some guys up front. So it's definitely going to be a different spring experience. And unfortunately, I think this is kind of the way that it's going to go. We're not going to get the traditional spring game anymore, where we get to see these guys, fly around and actually tackle someone for the first time in however many months. So, just the season is too deep now. It's the season used to end first week of January. Now it's getting third week of January, and they're playing 17 games in some cases. So, that's just the way I think it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. Clearly, I think Ryan Day is running this more like an NFL organization now, and a lot of the players, you're not going to see them, especially in the spring showcase. He's saying there, some guys will show out there with the 7-on-7 portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the actual contact, things like that, you probably won't see a lot of them. No. Now, you will see the quarterbacks, you will see the running backs, because those guys got to get reps. You will see the O-line, you will see the D-line, but I think guys that you won't see. Well, let's make a list. So Jeremiah, you're not going to see him.
Yep.
Now, maybe a little bit because you had to get.
I mean, you might see Jeremiah a little bit just because he's still he was a true freshman last year. He still needs time to develop, and I think some spring reps are going to do him good.
And you need Tate. I mean, guys like Tate still need to get reps with these whoever the quarterback one is, and all.
Maybe I mean you're going to see more with. You're going to see more Mylan Graham, Brandon Ennis, those are the guys who are going to get more reps.
Bryson,
just because they've been exactly. You might not see. I mean, you might see more of Max Clare than you would think, because even though he's been around a while, he hasn't been around with this group, so he's got to get some chemistry going with these guys. So you'll see him. Offensive line, you'd hope you'd see Jalen Daniels and Aniwa, get some reps. And there's something I want to ask you about the offensive line, because I saw what I consider kind of a ridiculous take on the offensive line out there from Buckeye Huddle. And they were talking about, there was a report that they were experimenting with Ciravel at left tackle, at starting left tackle, as opposed to Aniwana. And I was absolutely floored about that, because I'm not even sure Ciravel should be a starting guard. And to throw him out there at left tackle, I think that would be wild. And they would have Aniwana at right tackle, and Phil Daniels, apparently, according to this report, they don't think he's as ready to play as some other people do. So what's your take on that?
I think it's early. I think this is one of those situations where it's like a first week of practice, and people are digging. They're trying to find something to talk about where there's nothing there at all. It's just too early to. And so, first off, Ciravel at left tackle. I'm here to assure you that is not happening. That is not happening. I couldn't.
Better not happen. He's not Donovan Jackson.
I couldn't imagine that happening. I don't know why that would happen. If you told me that he just so happened to beat out Tegra at right guard, I can believe something like that.
Yeah.
I can understand that. It's not as though Ciravel was completely terrible. I think in the beginning of the season he was. Then towards the end of the season, there was times he had to play. He was much better than he was at the beginning of the season. Cool.
Yep.
But I don't believe if you're Daniels or Aniawa, I don't think you're coming here unless you knew you were starting. I felt that way about Will Howard last season when everyone thought that Devin Brown still had a chance. I said there's no way that a fifth-year senior is coming to Ohio State without knowing he's going to start.
Oh, well, I think Ethan's going to start. The question is whether or not Daniels does. And
I think Daniels will.
I think he will too. I think he should at least.
Yeah, I just don't. When you've been in the program for this long, it doesn't seem like you've progressed. But there's other guys that have. And let's be honest here. Let's say Ciravel went into the portal this last year at the same time Daniels did. Most people will come knocking on Daniels' door than they would Ciravel's. Yeah. So
and I mean, and to that point, Ohio State felt comfortable with who they had, like, or in the room already. They wouldn't have gone in the portal to get these guys in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's clear that they wanted an upgrade at the tackle spot, both tackle spots, with Simmons and Donovan Jackson leaving and Josh Fryer gone. So they need someone who they need guys at that spot, and I don't believe Ciravel is the answer at really any of the offensive lines. But like you, I could see him competing with Tegra for the right guard spot. I could see him doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was a ridiculous assertion that Ciravel could possibly work in at left tackle. And if that happens, I will have some serious questions about Tyler Bowen as the offensive line coach.
Man.
I was going to say, but speaking of Bowen, what did you think of him?
I'm impressed by him. I like him. I think that I have liked every single hire, especially the important hires that Ryan Day has made, and this is one of my favorite ones. Something that Ryan Day said about him, I typed it out right here. Says that he talked about him being a recruiter, mentioned about all the success he has had on the recruiting trail, as we can, you see it on On3, 247, or wherever you look. It's it's widely seen. He's got Ohio State's name with a lot of top recruits at the offensive line position, which is very important. And then Ryan Day said that when it comes to evaluating players, he's at a very high level.
Yep.
That's all I need to hear. And we've talked about the coaches and how whether they've been with the position or without the position. And of course, he hasn't for some time now. But the fact that he knows how to evaluate players in the offensive line, that's all I need to know. The coach is gonna work itself out, but it's very important to make sure you have a guy that knows how to evaluate the players coming out of high school, because evaluating players out of high school is not that easy. So
no, it's not, and it's good that Day, like you mentioned, he specifically talked about him being a stronger recruiter, which is something that Fry, we've talked about, he just wasn't. And that's why they hired a bunch of the offensive analysts that they did, who have offensive line coaching experience, because they wanted to help Bowen with the development of the guys. Bowen is very good at identifying talent and recruiting talent to come in. I'm not saying he's a bad developer, but that, like you mentioned, that's just not his forte. That's just not what he's known for. So he needs to, I guess, prove a little bit that he can do that at the Big Ten level with the talent that he's given. I'm excited the work that he's done on the recruiting trail already, as far as Bella's not having it today. As far as the work that he's already done in warships and getting visits set up. So I want to see what they're able to do once they actually get some commits. I want to see what the quality of those recruits are. And from everything that Bowen said, I mean, he seems to understand what he's doing out there on that recruiting trail. And it seems like the main reason why Day went ahead and brought him in.
So this question right here from Sage, Ohio. Good to see you in your band. I actually wanted to ask you this last week. I forgot to. Do you think they're going to come out in the 3-4-4-3 next season?
With the now that they have right now, I would say they're more equipped to run a base of a 4-3 because they don't have the linebacker play. I mean, they just don't. Yeah. They don't have the depth there at that spot to really run a 3-4. And I know Patricia's run a lot of 3-4 in the past, but the linebacker depth is one of the weaker spots. So, and again, we talked about it before. We don't exactly know what base he wants to run. And it could be the fact where it's just going to be purely situational, where it's going to be, hey, they have, it's 12 personnel, so let's go 4-3. Or, hey, they got 4 receivers out there. Let's get a dime package out there, or nickel package, whatever. So, but I think they're more equipped to run a 4-3, and I would expect that to be the base. I don't expect them to stick with a 4-2-5 base. What about you?
I think I agree with you. I do agree. I think 4-3 would be the way to go. Even at the defensive line, Ryan Day talked about this also. Like, the depth isn't there yet, or it's just inexperienced right now. But I think I have more trust in our defensive line depth. I do our linebacker depth, and even so, say if we did go 3-4, I would assume the outside guys would be Sonny and Hicks. So then you're talking about 2 guys in the middle who, Arbel will be his first time starting, and someone else, they're inexperienced also. And then after that, there's not a lot of depth there either way, whether it be numbers or experience. So I agree with you. I think 4-3 would definitely help out more. I think it would mirror the 4-2 more, like a little bit better also, based off the way we ran it last season or the past few seasons. So yeah.
Yeah.
And also we have Caleb Down.
And we'll see. Go ahead. Okay. I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't think we're going to learn a whole lot based on what we're learning about the spring game format. I don't think we're going to learn a ton this spring on the personnel. I think we're going to have to wait for fall camp to get a true good picture of what they're going to do, and not just on defense, on offense too. Like, Brian Hartline's got a brand new offense he's bringing in, and he talked to the media too, and he said everything that we're accustomed to hearing him saying. He's excited to get the job. He's excited to call plays. And, Ryan Day even mentioned he's trying really hard to let Hartline run his own meetings and just, not meddle, because he meddled a couple of years ago when he was supposed to just give everything away to Hartline, and then he couldn't do it. So I'm going to be interested to see how well he's able to follow that philosophy even into the fall, because he didn't even really give him a spring either when he was supposed to give up the play calling duties last time. So I want to see if he's actually able to follow through with that. But any firm takeaways on what you heard from Hartline?
Not really. I think that basically the only thing I got from it was that he is the guy now. It's not that I didn't understand it already, but it's nice to have it affirmed. Nice to hear it from Ryan Day. Nice to see that he understands it also. I'm very interested to see how it looks. Like that's all it is for me now. I just want to see how it looks. Whether that be and honestly, I don't even think we're going to see it in the showcase how it really looks. I think
Yep.
we're going to have to wait for the first week against Texas. At the end of the day, this is going to be Brian Hartline's spin on it. It's not going to be Ryan. It's not going to be Ryan Day's offense. Now it's not going to be Chip Kelly's. No, it's going to have some of the same schematics. Yes, so the range, same route trees. Yes, but it's not like Brian Hartline didn't play in the NFL. He has success in the NFL. He knows what it takes to be an NFL offense to work, and I think he clearly understands what it takes for a college offense to work. I'm excited for him. And also one of the things I wrote right here, Pat Murphy asked him a question I really liked, and just asking, what makes Brian Hartline ready now. He asked Ryan Day that, and he said that it's his work ethic, the credibility that he has with his players, and the players relate to him, and he's good in the headset. And we mentioned was that on the headset between the plays, right? He says there's about 12, 15 seconds there for things that happen. And things, everyone's trying to talk in there. He said that he's very good at it. He's very commanding in there. And that's nice to hear. So
Yep. Well, we got some breaking news into the show here. And actually, I saw it right as one of our commenters went ahead and put it.
mm-hmm.
We have an offensive line commit. We were just talking about Tyler Bowen and what
Maxwell Riley just committed?
Yeah, Maxwell Riley, 4-star tackle. And he's a top 10 tackle in the nation. 2026 class decides to be Tyler Bowen's first signee as, the Ohio State offensive line coach. So thoughts on this commitment, thoughts on what Riley can bring to this program as, a 4-star prospect?
Well, first off, welcome to OHIO.
Yep.
Very glad to have you. Still got to wait for you to sign the papers, but I believe that we're going to do whatever it takes to keep you there. Secondly, shout out to Tyler Bowen. As you said, we were just talking about it, and just talking about how Ryan Day is very good has a high evaluation when it comes to these high school kids. He knows who to pick and how to coach them, and he's got his first commit, and it's a very big one for us. Also, I'm never short of thanks for Ryan Day, because Ryan Day always knows what to do when it comes to progressing the program. It's either the coaches, the players, or the scheme. He's gone through coaches before. He's changed the scheme plenty of times. And when it comes to players, man, listen, he wasn't getting the right players for a couple of years here at the offensive line position. He brings in someone who knows who can change it.
Yep.
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. For those that don't really know a lot about Riley, he's pretty good. I mean, he's probably going to end up guard at the next level. Or the thing is, he's got versatility. Like, he's listed as a tackle, but he can also play guard. Like, he has that versatility that Ohio State loves up front. He's someone that can really move guys. And again, I mean, he was a 4-star recruit for a reason, and all of, a lot of the big guys were coming after him. I mean, he had a lot of people actually thought he was going to go to Clemson. Like, he was crystal ball projected to go to Clemson by a lot of the recruiting services out there. So it's good to get him. He's an in-state kid. He's from Avon. He's from Avon Lake. So he's someone who the Buckeyes had identified early, and they have a lot of offers out there for in-state offensive line talent. I mean, 6'5", 280. So, like I said, he probably projects as a guard if you really want to have him, high level. But he is someone that Ohio State prioritized early on in this class. And now they have, they have a commitment for him. But like you, I don't want to get, overly excited until the signing day rolls around and they've got their, name signed, sealed, delivered with all of that and the NIL and whatnot. Because as we know, times have changed. So you never know what's going to happen. December is a long ways away from
Yep.
now. So, it would be nice to keep a hold of this guy. But, he was very pleased with what he saw at Ohio State from both Ryan Day and Coach Bone. And as you pulled up on the screen here, he thanks both of them. That they were obviously instrumental in his recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
So this is good news for the Buckeyes, and I'm excited to see what Riley can develop into, because I think he's a pretty good player.
Eventually you're gonna have to get like a plaque or like something within the Woody that has that Jim Tressel quote. Eventually, they're gonna have to. I love that quote, but
well, I thank God he gave me a chance to be a Buckeye.
Yeah, because there's nothing like it.
Yeah,
that's a great quote. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yep. I think this is one of many.
Yep, one of many. Great, like I said, good recruit. And offensive line is where they're doing. We just talked about it, how they've got a lot more offers out there than what they did under Fry. So, Riley's he's the first, but he will not be the last. And they've got. This could be a class that's pretty heavy in offensive linemen, because they had a little bit of a recruiting deficit at that spot under Fry. So look for them to kind of build that depth back up and get these guys, get some of the depth back, so then they don't need to go to the transfer portal for, 2 starting tackles in the future. So they can just kind of build it in-house. But Riley's the first of many, and, maybe he brings some of the other in-state Ohio kids, from the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice. So, we were talking about
one more thing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
And like Urban Meyer said, the top 10 kids in Ohio, you gotta keep in state. You gotta keep the top 10 kids in Ohio. And if you look at the 2026 class, it's a little shaky. There's a couple kids in there who could leave. But this is one step forward. You gotta keep the best within the state. And I think we actually do a better job of doing that than other places do. Even though I think sometimes I laugh when Ohio State fans get upset when a kid from Ohio leaves who's a top-ranked kid. I'm like, guys, listen, we do the same thing to the kids down. We just took Jeremiah Smith out of Florida.
Yeah,
mind you that Florida State, like all those programs, Miami, they're all down there.
We get all kinds of top kids out of Texas all the time. Like
exactly, like it happens. It happens.
Yeah,
so.
No, but you're right. You got to keep the best players in the state of Ohio, in Ohio. And, we talk about building that recruiting fence around the state. And, Riley's a good player. I think he's still got some development that he can, he's definitely not the player that this is not his full ceiling. I think he's only going to get better, and excited to see what Bowen can do with him once he actually gets on campus. So that's, like I said, it's a good start for the offensive line. So, we were talking about the different coaches who talked with the media, and I don't know about you, but with some of these new guys, I was looking for, and I'm talking Patricia, Bowen, Tony Washington Jr., the guys who have just gotten hired. I was interested to see what kind of tenor they were going to have coming in, what their mentality was, like how they were going to come in day one and hit the ground running. Because Ohio State is not a place where you really develop and learn a whole lot. They are, this is a program where you're expected to be the best kind of right out of the gate. So I was interested to hear how they were going to deal with the pressure, basically. Patricia, he's coached in the NFL. He's used to it. He was a former head coach. He understands the pressure. I wasn't worried about any of his comments. But I was interested to hear, about Bowen, talking about what he was going to do at Ohio State. And, I came away pleased with pretty much everyone that came to the podium, which, is a good thing. What would you make of, their comments at large, at least specifically the new guys?
And by new guys, you mean like guys that haven't been in the program already?
Correct.
I like the bravado. I like the confidence they show. More importantly, I like how happy they look. I brought Matt Patricia. The guy looks happy, and that means a lot to me. And the fact that he talked about building the relationships with the coaches, which is what that time is for. We said before how right now most of the players are with the training staff and their teammates. The rest of the coaches, they're with each other. So I'm very happy. I think that they fit the culture. I think they fit the culture that Ryan Day is trying to instill, the one that he has instilled, actually. I think that he's done things that benefit guys. Everything benefits the other side. Think about it this way. Like even Brian Hartline talked about how happy he was that we brought in Tyler Bowen, because he talked about how he's called plays before, which is important to him because he wants someone else there that's done that, been there, and also the fact that how good he is in the run game, which is not his expertise. That is not Ryan. I can understand why Brian Hartline is not an expert at the run game, but then yeah.
We'll talk about Carlos Lachlan here in a second. I wanted to hear your thoughts on what he had to say specifically about Bo Jackson. And I wanted to know if you caught this. He said Bo Jackson has gifts only God can give.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear this.
Okay, well, he's a big boy, and he is someone that's exciting. I know both of us like Turbo, as the other running back in this class. But Bo Jackson, I mean, he's an in-state kid. Like, he's from the Cleveland area, and he's a 4-star recruit in his own right. He's 6 foot, 205. Like, he's built right. Like,
is that his current weight?
That's his current weight, or
okay.
That's what his weight was coming in. According to 247. I don't know what he's up to now, but I'm sure I'm sure he's
he's past 210. I know that much. He's past.
Yeah, I'm sure he's put on a little bit of weight, but again, he's officially listed as 210 on the website on Ohio State's roster. So he is someone that I'm really excited to watch as well. And if Carlos Lachlan is excited to have him in the room after he just coached Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, then I can't wait to see what he does when he's out there on the field.
Yeah, because like I said, I haven't heard this yet, so I'm trying not to be overly excited. So yeah, Bo Jackson, when
you'd be excited, it's fine.
When he committed, right, I thought to myself, okay, I'm looking at his size, I'm looking at how he looks. I would expect him to be a little bit like for his weight to be a little bit more, right? He does have a slender build on the lower level, but he has a big upper body. Kind of like if you look at Trent Richardson, like he's kind of built like an upside down triangle.
Yeah, I really hope he ends up being better than Trent Richardson, at least in the end.
I don't mean Trent Richardson, but I mean, and I'm just talking about how he's built. I meant Derrick Henry, like a big upper body. The lower body is a little bit slender, but you can work on that with just going to the gym and doing squats and other things like that. But I was like, man, no. I'm watching his highlight tape, and it was hard to get things from him because I was like, every single run is just him busting. It's just him going through, and he's gone. He's gone. So it was really hard to take a lot from it. That's why I kind of a little bit more impressed with what Turbo's tape was, his highlight tape.
Well, I mean,
Coach Lockman saying that.
When you're Bo Jackson and you're that big and you can run that fast, like that's what really stood out to me is the breakaway speed, even at his size.
Kind of like a Beanie Wells.
Yeah. And that's something that I think Lachlan sees as well. And, I'm interested to hear your take on this. How do you think Lachlan did as a running backs coach in his first year when he was hired basically around this time last year? Like it was a little bit later than this because of the fact that Alford made the late move, during spring ball to head to Michigan. So how do you think Lachlan did in his first full year as a running backs coach?
Before I answer that, do you think Harlan wants the booth?
I do not.
Me either. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I believe he did a good job at management, running back management.
Okay.
I think he did a very good job at splitting the carries, understanding that he understood that Trevion probably can't take as many touches as Judkins can. Judkins has been a bell cow for 2 years. So he's never gotten hurt. So I think that he understood that, and also that in the playoffs, I was very curious about this because I said, in the NFL, when you go to the playoffs, the game slows down. Same thing happens in the NBA. Same thing happens in MLB. When you get to the playoffs, the game slows down. So I say, usually in the playoffs recently, because it's only 2 games, you still get some blowouts, like big ones. And the game still goes a little bit faster.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that he knew that, and he kept his horses steady and healthy. And by the time the postseason came, he had a fully healthy Travion Henderson, who just took over. Not the way Zeke did, but in his own right he did. And I thought that it worked out very well. And then in the last game, Junkins gets 3 touchdowns. Yeah, I think he does a good job at that. And also because I think running back is such an instinctual position. There's some things you can teach. There's some things you can coach. But it's very instinctual. So my thing is, what do you do with the running backs, and do you know who's better? Do you know when to play them? Do you know where they can succeed and where they fail? I think he does a very good job at that.
So if you had to give, A, B, C,
A plus.
Okay, I have to say I'd give him an A too. I mean, he was, for your first year as the coach at Ohio State, you come in super late.
Mm-hmm.
You come in. And basically, spring ball's done. Like he got in at the 3rd week of spring ball, so he basically didn't get to work with the guys until late summer. So it was good for him that he did have 2 guys who were veterans at the top of the chart who have been around for a while. And I know this was Judkins' first year with Ohio State, but he'd had 2 really good seasons at Ole Miss, as you mentioned. And I agree with you as far as what he was able to do with managing their snap count and managing who was going to play in what situation. I thought Ohio State's, both their running backs, they played at their capacity this year. I thought they both hit their ceiling. And we saw it, as you mentioned, during the playoff run. Both running backs had their moments. Both of them brought things to the table that a lot of the other, backs prior just haven't. I mean, Henderson, this was his first full year that he was actually able to stay healthy and play in every game. Judkins definitely helped with that because they were able to split carries. And I think that Lachlan was able to get the most out of those guys. And I'm curious to see what he does now that he doesn't have, 2 surefire NFL running backs, in the backfield. I'm really curious to see what he does with Donaldson now that he's in the program, because he's going to start. And I want to see how he's able to develop James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon and, these 2 freshman running backs that he's got as well. So the team seems to love him. I mean, his players in the running back room, they always talk about how upbeat he is, how much they like him. So I think that's a good start. And he's been really good on the recruiting trail. I mean, he was able to get both Turbo and Bo Jackson coming into the program. So I'm excited to see what the future of him recruiting in that position looks like as well.
And something that I really like about Lachlan is he's a very he's someone he's easy to respect. I think the guys fear him, and I don't mean like they're scared of him. I mean they just have a very high respect of him, man, like a patriarch. Like that's a man. As a man, I think that the fact that they knew that coming in, some of the guys he said he recruited them before, so they already knew who he is. They heard of him before, so they talked to him. So I think that's one of the reasons Sam Williams-Dixon came back. Maybe the market wasn't there for him, but usually it's never that simple. A lot of things are great. There's a lot of factors for a lot of things. And I gotta believe, Ryan Day talks about it all the time. You gotta recruit your team every year. Yep. And I think that he make sure that his coaches know that. And I think Coach Lachlan was still recruiting Sam Williams-Dixon back to Ohio State. That's what you got to do in today's game. And then also beyond that, we talk about being able to, you got Bo Jackson, and mind you, there are other top running backs that Ohio State was in the talks for, didn't work out. And then you were able to get Turbo Rogers to leave Alabama and then come to Ohio State. So I think that's awesome. It's incredible. Yeah, Coach Locklear. When he officially got hired at Ohio State, I think I tweeted out a program. He's a staple in a program type of guy. Program changer. So
yeah, no, he's great. I thought, like I mentioned, for the situation that he was put in, he did great. And you know what? Credit to Ryan Day for being able to bring him in the first place. You're put in a tough situation where not only do you lose your running backs coach, right before the season started, but you also lost his offensive coordinator. I mean, Bill O'Brien was also taken during spring ball, and obviously the offensive coordinator and the running backs coach, they work a lot hand in hand. So credit to Day for being able to go out and bring someone in like Lachlan, who, hopefully sticks around for a little bit. I know he's eventually, he's a good enough recruiter where he'll probably get an offensive coordinating opportunity somewhere, but, got to enjoy him while they have him. So I think he's someone that they're going to love as long as he's in Columbus. Anything else that stood out from you as far as the interviews that we heard on Friday?
Oh man! All right, let me look at this. I have a lot of stuff, so many notes. I was give you some bullet points that I have down, man. And let me know if anything catches your eyes up. For Tim Walton, we didn't talk about Matt Patricia. He talked about him having Patricia having a sharp football IQ, passionate, and runs the defense that gets to the quarterback. And him being the secondary coach, I would, if you can, DBs always love it when the front seven can get to the quarterback. Yeah. We as they got to play corner, I prefer you get a sack than me get an interception. I don't like running around all the time.
That's nice of you.
Yeah. Who wants to run around all the time? Quote, like a straight quote from Ryan Day about Brian Hartline calling plays. Let him go and run with this thing. So I remember we talked about this not a few weeks ago, probably about a month ago. I asked you, do you think Ryan Day would possibly take the first game? And you said no. And I think you're right. I think he's gonna just let him take the horse. Go, man.
And I think to back to what I talked about earlier, how he meddled when Hartline was supposed to be the offensive coordinator a couple of years ago and basically took the play calling back from him. I think he learned his mistake, and I think last year he realized, for all the other things that a head coach now in college football needs to do with the NIL and we're basically re-recruiting players to stay on his team the whole season. He needs to take more of that CEO approach, and they won a national championship doing that. So I think he realizes the value in that now.
Yeah. Let me see. What else? Talked about Keenan and Billy in the past game. Talked about how much they will help in that with Brian Hartline. Said that Ryan Day did say that one thing he is happy about, and this is where I'm okay with this. He said, the defense has a lot of vets on it in terms of coaching. Mm-hmm. So he said that allows him, he's still going to be over there, but he said that allows me to early on be with the offense and just to make sure everything's going smoothly because there's a lot of new faces around. I was happy with that. He said that it allows him to allow guys to call plays and be in the headset. He's trying to get away from that. And so what do you think? What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's smart. I think that they need to be able to. I think it's a good idea. I think they need to figure out which voice they really need to hear from when it matters most, and really just kind of follow that voice. And with this being the second year of in-ear communication, which I think that was great. I don't know why they didn't do it 5-10 years ago, like the NFL has. I think that's going to make things a little bit easier as well. And that, that is that is something that I think actually helps Patricia, coming from the NFL. He's used to that system. Some of these, these defensive coordinators, in the past, they kind of had to learn that a little bit that on the fly as opposed to signaling everything in. So I think that's kind of a cap in the feather for him, or a feather in the cap for him. So, but, I think that was, something that was important for them to do.
And then The last thing I have here. Talk about all those. He said there's no eval for the quarterbacks right now, but it says they'll run in 3 groups with equal reps for the quarterbacks, and said that even like all of them are going to work with the 1s, work with the 2s, and work with the 3s. So it's instead of rolling the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's no quarterback evals already. Like they know they know what they've gotten 2 of them. So
Yep.
let's not play. But you know, it's to be expected as far as how they're going to roll them out. I want to see, and again, we're not really the thing about this spring showcase is we still don't know exactly what the format's going to look like, so we're not going to be able to see a whole lot of these quarterbacks, and that's disappointing to me as a fan. Because I would, I'd love making those snap judgments after, a quarter in the spring game just based on looks. Aaron Nolan looked a lot better last year than Sayan did, and some of the other quarterbacks. But they have their own internal system, and it'll be interesting to see what Billy Fessler can do now that he's the actual quarterback coach. They promoted him, and Will Howard sung his praises as far as helping him develop last year and finish as strongly as he did in the college football playoffs. So whatever evaluation system that they want to have at this point, I trust. Day had that one stinker with Kyle McCord, and I think that's just a Kyle McCord issue. And I'm hoping that they've gotten better with their talent evals. So, I think you and I are pretty comfortable with the quarterback situation moving forward.
Yeah. Nope, that's it, man.
All right.
Before we get going here, everyone, here we go. Oh, did it go away? There we go.
There you go.
I can't tell if it's showing or not. But just a word from the network. Get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the voice of college football. See what our partner Win Agency has to say about its sponsorship experience with us here on the screen. Let's discuss how you also can reach your target market. Contact us at sponsorships@vocfb.com today.
Yeah, you want to sponsor? Come on in. We'll talk with you.
We'll definitely talk.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I got as well. From what we learned here in Media Day.
I'm glad we got that news right now, man. That's
yeah.
huge.
Well, and I was about to say, now that we're in spring ball and there's some more, these guys are starting to take visits, we're gonna have a lot more recruiting news flowing in over the next couple of weeks. We're gonna have a lot of prospects coming in, and there are gonna be some more commitments. So that's definitely something to watch, and we'll be on top of it.
I mean, just real quick. I mean, I'm just looking at it real quick before we get leave here.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the class is still small.
It's still small.
It's not, and it should be right now. I'm okay with that. Of course, we still got Chris Henry. I think that's a lock. I have to tell my Oregon friends all the time. It's like that's a wrap. That's over with.
Yeah, he's not leaving.
Of course, Maxwell Riley's here, our second top 100 player. So, yeah, but I'm okay with the class right now.
The class is smaller than it was at this point last year, which I'm fine with because, like I mentioned, a lot of the guys that they got early in the class, they didn't stick around. So I would much rather finish strong than start strong when it comes to recruiting, especially these days with NIL where people can just switch at the drop of a hat. So I would much rather have those guys locked and loaded later than right now in March.
Yep. All right, man.
All right. Well, we will see you guys on Thursday for the Collins show. So bring your, questions, comments, concerns, all that for Thursday. And we'll love to hear from you guys. It's your show. So we'll kind of go with it as, you guys direct us. But until then, OH.
IO.